Welcome back to the TwinSpires Racing Roundtable. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Vance Hansen to discuss Pegasus World Cup Day, where National Treasure won the marquee event and Warmheart retired in style with the win in the Pegasus World Cup turf. But before we get started about Saturday's results, let's also mention real quick a TwinSpires user hit the mandatory payout at Gulfstream on Sunday and won a pretty life-changing amount, $1.8 million. James, you ever hit a score like that before?
Not yet, Ashley. I'm not not counting out the possibility, but no, I have it. And yeah, Luis Perez, TwinSpires account holder, Luis Perez, big shout out, congratulations. He invested in a $345.60 ticket, and basically, like you said, a windfall return, $1.8 million. And the real key to it, Ashley and Vance, it looked like it's the last two legs of the sequence. I mean, he had some price horses before that, but in the last two legs with Bring the Band Home and Sweet Mimi, Luis identified a pair of runners that had never raced on the grass before that he used on his ticket, and they both won. And he gave Brisnet, he uses the Brisnet past performances, he gave Brisnet a shout out for the, with Bring the Band Home. He loved the Brisnet turf number that was in there, as well as additional pedigree sets we have. And then with Sweet Mimi, he referenced the Michael Trombetta trainer stats that the Brisnet past performances provide, as well as pedigree stats we had. So yeah, big shout out to Luis Perez for bringing it home, and congratulations.
Vance, do you use those same pedigree stats when you're handicapping with Brisnet?
Yeah, I definitely take a look at them. Winning a score like that requires very creative handicapping, and like James, I have not been that creative yet in my betting career to win a jackpot like that. But all the congratulations to Luis for a fantastically laid out ticket using great information from Brisnet, and like you said, it's a life-changing score, and $345 if you got it laying around, it's not that much of an investment. So congratulations to him. What a score.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll all get something close to that one of these days. It's got to be there for us one time out there.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to Saturday's results. And James, you pegged the winner, National Treasure, in the Pegasus World Cup. You had a lot of naysayers, but ultimately the post-time favorite did cross the wire first. So what were your takeaways from that race?
Well, I thought National Treasure ran big. He dueled through hot pace and then withstood a real strong late run from Senor Buscador to prevail by about a neck. You know, the hot pace in that race really set it up for late runners. Senor Buscador closed from next to last, and Krupe, who was third, was last in the 12-horse field. And it was a big gap back to fourth as well. And basically, I just think National Treasure, this race confirmed that he's improved significantly in his last two starts. He ran well last year, capturing the Preakness, but that wasn't the fastest race. Blazing 7th in it, didn't carry that form forward, but it looks like to me he's really turned a corner last fall when he ran a nose second to Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He got a 109 Brisnet speed rating. He got a 105 for the Pegasus World Cup, and considering it's early in his 4-year-old season, I see it as a very encouraging performance to build upon Vance.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of that sentiment. I mean, if you look back to October, a lot of us would have said National Treasure winning the Pegasus World Cup. No way. I mean, he was basically kind of based on his summertime form in early fall, he was kind of looking like a rather modest Preakness winner historically. But like you said, he's really turned the corner the last couple of races. Ran Cody's Wish to the finish line in the Dirt Mile at the Breeders' Cup, and then he wins the Pegasus World Cup here. He has evolved into a much more consistent and capable horse the last 3 months. However, I'm taking a little bit of a jaundiced view of this. I think a 1.25 miles, based on his performance here, might still be beyond his ideal distance. And of course, that's the distance of the Breeders' Cup Classic. Senor Buscador, he's not really known for liking long distances himself. He seemed to be running out of gas as much as making up ground on National Treasure late. So, and this field was really strung out at the finish too. And I think this World Cup underscored the continued lack of depth in this older male dirt division. And we also saw that some of the horses in this race that had presumed upside, like First Mission and Grand Aspen, just didn't fire at all. So my main takeaway here is that White Barrio, who is the division leader right now, now that Cody's Wish is out of has been retired, I don't think he has anyone significant to fear in this division at this moment in time, Ashley.
Yeah, I was surprised by First Mission's performance as well. That was the 4-year-old that I thought was going to have best finish among the field, or at least of the 4-year-olds. But National Treasure, he pressed the pace. Coming into this, a lot of us said he was a need in the lead type, and Hoist the Gold got the lead, which was a big debate with you and Darren on the jury and our live stream as well. But also, National Treasure has shown in 2 straight races, this fight in the final furlong, he almost rallied after he was overtaken by Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And then, was just barely beaten in that race, then came back and won here. So I'm much more of a believer. And looking ahead, he might be pointed toward the Saudi Cup at 1 1/8 of a mile, potentially the Dubai World Cup, could be a Met Mile candidate. Do you feel like he should cut back in distance and go to that Met Mile, or do you think he should stick to 1 1/8 of a mile in the Saudi Cup? James, what do you think?
Well, I do think that Baffert sort of came out and said he plans to keep him in the U.S. and not send him over there. And I think that might be in his best interest. One thing about it, you could see it in the stretch run of that race, and even with Cody's Wish, he's not the biggest horse around. And yeah, your questions marks about the 1.25 mile distance are valid. I would like to build him up to the distance. I mean, the Breeders' Cup Classic's obviously going to be his target, but I do think there's more like logical races to aim for, like the Oaklawn Handicap and others that are probably going to be at 1 1/8. He could run in a race in California like that's 1.25 miles, like the Gold Cup at Santa Anita or the Pacific Classic. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Right now, though, like I would say, though, 1.16 miles, 1 1/8, that's his best distance until he proves himself at 1.25 miles.
Let's move over to the turf events on the Pegasus World Cup day card. Vance, what were your thoughts on the turf events?
Yeah, I'll discuss 4 horses here. Of course, Warm Heart beating the boys in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Sensational career swan song for her. Winning in course record time under patented ride by Ryan Moore. What can you say about her brief career? But she was very, very good, and she'll be sadly missed the remainder of the season in Europe. The favorite Integration, I think it's too early to give up on him. He ran 5th here, underwhelmed, obviously, off of 3 impressive performances last year. But keep in mind, this was his very first race against older horses. He had beaten just strictly 3-year-olds in the Virginia Derby and Hill Prince. And, he was conceding a much more experience to the rest of this field. So I still think he's got a lot of room to improve off of this. I mean, basically the 6-5 starting price on him was ridiculously short given those factors. So, horse players wanting to bet him back just demand value going forward. The filly and mare turf Pegasus race, Didia bounced back from a modest performance in the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. She won well. She showed a bit more positional speed than she had previously since her importation. Of course, the pace was kind of slow in the filly and mare turf on Saturday, but she won fairly good, a representative performance for her. Then I'll mention another filly that some people thought was going to run better in the race on Saturday. That was Star Fortress. She endured a rough trip, wound up last. Ultimately, she might have found the ground much too fast for her. She enjoyed the soft, loose footing at Churchill last fall when winning the Cardinal Stakes by open length. So her future success might be ground dependent, I think. James?
Yeah, I'll give credit to Ryan Moore. I thought he gave Warm Heart a dynamite trip, put her 3rd early. I didn't understand why Tyler Gaffleone, when Integration broke sharply and he had position to get like the similar trip, he dropped back to 6th or 7th, then he got all caught up in traffic. And, I didn't know. One thing about him is you might be right, he could bounce back, but that was that was so underwhelming. I was really disappointed with the way Integration ran. I thought it was interesting. Warm Heart, along with setting a new course record for the 1 1/8 distance, her connections, the Coolmore connections seem to indicate or suggest she could be bred to Justify. So you know, that's definitely be looking out for that offspring in the years to come. And I'll mention Didia. This is the 4th time in North America. She's an Argentinian import. 4 times she's come back from a freshening. She's won all 4 times. Keep my eye out that going forward this season when Nacho Creas rests her. Look for her to come back big, Ashley, in her next start.
Well, you mentioned Warm Heart's course record, and then Francesco Clemente was just 0.01 seconds off the course record as well. And aside from that, what stood out to me was that disappointing finish by Integration, but he did get a career best 101 first net speed figure. So he is improving, and I do think he can, you know, bounce back off this effort. I was also surprised by Star Fortress Vance. I picked her to win that race, and then she ended up finishing last in the field with a troubled trip. And Romagna Mia failed to fire in the La Preva. You say it for me, Vance. You're always better with this.
La Provoyante.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, she failed to fire as well. Won by Alpha Bella instead of Justify Philly, which kind of a little 6 degrees of separation here. You know, Justify Philly winning, Justify now to be bred to Warm Heart, and Warm Heart is by Galileo, and Francesco Clemente is out of a Galileo mare. So, you know, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for the track, I guess. All right, aside from that, what else stood out to you at Gulfstream on Saturday, James?
Well, I'm going to mention Speakeasy. He's a 3-year-old son of Constitution. He made his career debut in the 2nd race. I don't know if anybody out there's heard this, but last year that same race produced Mage. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that for the first time. Just kidding. But yeah, and he was super impressive. He didn't break on the lead, but he still broke pretty sharply. Conceded the advantage, or basically the 3-2 favorite. Another first time in there. Victory Avenue had this big reputation for Gustav Delgado. He sprinted forward, showed the way. Speakeasy settled into like a tracking, pressing trip in 2nd. And then when they got to the stretch run, he just took over powerfully, I thought. He's really a big, huge, like athletic-looking colt. Drew off to win by about 2 lengths. Got a 103 net speed rating. So really an impressive performance by him. Of course, Todd Pletcher, 2-time Kentucky Derby winner. He's got Fierceness coming back this weekend. He's going to have Lock the following weekend. And he had a horse in late November called Born Noble that won his maiden first time out real impressively as well at 7 furlongs. So this is just another I guess bullet in his holster, another real promising Kentucky Derby prospect in the Pletcher barn. Speakeasy as Vance.
Yeah, Ashley mentioned Francesco Clemente a few moments ago, and I thought his performance in the WL McKnight on Saturday suggested that he, rather than Integration, might be the next top U.S. turf male, taking the mantle from up to the mark. He won with authority, coming with a wide rally, going 1.5 miles. And as Ashley mentioned, he just missed equaling the course record by 0.01 seconds. Of course, the course was playing pretty quick, as we've mentioned, but that's still a pretty impressive performance. Chad Brown came out and said he wants to keep this horse running at up 1.5 miles, but he is willing to drop back down to 1.25 miles. The problem going forward with him is that he's going to have some difficulty this year securing a Grade 1 victory if he sticks to that schedule, because the Manhattan, they announced this past week, has been reduced to 1 3/16 miles from 1.25 miles, because it's at Saratoga this year on Belmont Stakes Day. And then we have historic races like the Man of War and the United Nations that are 1 3/8 races. They've been downgraded from Grade 1 to Grade 2. So that's not going to affect Francesco Clemente's chances of winning an Eclipse Award, but I know some voters like to they rely heavily on grade 1s and those kind of labels, whereas I don't rely on them as much. But my overall point is that Francesco Clemente is probably not going to get Grade 1 laurels possibly until late summer, early fall, if he does indeed do so, Ashley.
Speaking of Francesco Clemente and Speakeasy, Irad Ortiz Jr. was aboard both of those, and he was absolutely dominant at Gulfstream on Saturday. He also just won his 5th career Eclipse Award for Outstanding Jockey, and then had 11 mounts on the 13 race card, won 5 of those, had 2 seconds and a third. And as I mentioned, Francesco Clemente was one of them, Speakeasy, Olivia Darling in the inside information. And he also surprisingly had a second with I'm Very Busy in the Pegasus World Cup turf, just a half length second to Warmheart in that course record time. So a very fast turf runner as well, that a lot of people wrote off at 14-1. And Irad Ortiz Jr., like I said, just got his 5th Eclipse Award. He's 2 off the record of Jerry Bailey, but Irad Ortiz Jr. is 31 years old. So I think we're looking at a new record holder in a couple of years, and probably going to pad that by quite a bit, you know, pending any injuries or anything like that. So certainly the top jockey around right now, aside from like Ryan Moore overseas and all that.
Oh yeah, with Speakeasy won at 8-1. I mean, that was just like, I mean, he was like 3-1 on the morning line. It was just like, you knew Irad was going to probably have a good day. At least I did. I had that feeling because I knew he had so many live stakes mounts coming up.
There's certainly a reason, you know, he gets bet down a lot.
What were you going to say, Vance?
I was just going to say that he had several high-priced winners on Saturday's card, including, I think, an also eligible that drew into a grass allowance that paid $20. So
the Cassie horse. Yeah.
Yes, and so yeah, if you're a fan of Irad, Saturday was the day to play him and parlay some of that money from race to race for sure.
Yeah, anything can happen with Irad Ortiz aboard. All right, well, that's all the time we have today for the Racing Roundtable. We'll be back next week to recap a whole bunch of stakes action, and check us out on Thursday for our best bets and fades on the TwinSpires jury.